Today I'm gonna do a somewhat review of these Tanahudu Waterstones. I consider these Amazon type Waterstones. I've done a whole video on Amazon type Waterstones and what you typically get. You may want to watch that first, but I'm going to just use these stones today and see how they do. I'm also going to make a comparison between this set of stones and this King 1000, 6000 KW65 type stone. This is not the stone I'm going to be using today. This one's brand new. I'm just using it for demonstration purposes. I just wanted to have this one for the logo and to show you something in comparison to what you get from when they're new. This one is brand new. So let's start with the Tanahudu. Again, my main issue today is going to be about this Tanahudu specifically set of Waterstones. This set I bought off Amazon for $23. They usually are available between $23 and $25. I think they are a good buy for $25 or under if you can find them. The King KW65 is usually around $27. I think this is a good deal. If you can find it for $27 or less, if this is what you want, I would pay under $30 for this. 23 to 25, 27, no more than 30. So let's talk about what you get. Again, I've done an overview of these Amazon type Waterstones. They're made by many different companies. Check out my video on that for more information. But I'm just going to be reviewing this as a set and see how it works and what I think of it compared to the King. So in this set, we get belt type leather strap. I talked about these in the other video. This is a dressing stone. They call it a flattening stone in the literature and on the ad. I would not consider this a flattening stone. I would consider this a dressing stone, which means that you could use it to clean some of the load up off your stone or use it to get a slurry if you like that before you start sharpening. I don't like that. I don't use these really for that, but this is what it comes with. They call it a flattening stone. I don't think this can flatten your stone. It comes with this huge chunk of green compound. I don't know the grit on this. They don't tell you what it is, but this is a huge piece of this. Frequently, sets like this will come with a little teeny one. This one is huge. So that's a decent deal if this works. Comes with a bamboo type base, which we will try to use. Comes with this angle guide, which in my overview of these Amazon type stones, I go over this in detail. I would throw this away. I'm not going to use it today. Comes with this flattening stone. This is a flattening stone and should work as a flattening stone. I'm glad this set comes with this stone. So for the set to come with this is a good deal. I don't think these last very long, but they can flatten the stone, which is necessary. These stones, if you use them for a long time, will dish out, so you do need a flattening stone. So this set comes with one. That's a bonus. So this is what we got for, in my case, $23. We get a strap, which these don't typically work, but I'm gonna try it out. It's a giant piece of compound, which if it works is a good deal. It's a dressing stone, flattening stone, which I think is a bonus to have it included in here at this price. We get the bamboo base, and we get two stones, two combo stones, each with a rubber base. I'll take them off so we can see. So essentially we have two stones, but the equivalent of four, because we have a 400 grit, 1000 grit, 3000 grit, and 8000 grit. 400, 1000, 3000, 8000. I go over these in my Amazon Waterstone overview. I've tried several different versions of these Amazon type stones, and I don't think any of them feel like they're over 1000 grit. I think these other stones just have some kind of polishing agent, but I'm going to try these stones out and we'll see how they do. So how these stones work is, these are water stones. They require soaking before use. So we're going to do that. I'll show you how they work real quick. So I'm going to start at the lowest grit, which is 400. Typically with all my sharpening systems, when I use water stones, I always consider using diamond stones, coarse diamond stones, as part of my sharpening process. they just work much faster. And so if I have a brand new knife that needs to be reprofiled, or if I have a really dull knife that needs to be reprofiled, or just needs a lot of work, anything more than a simple or medium touch-up, I will almost always use a coarse diamond, which in my case is usually approximately 200 grit diamond. I'm going to try not to do that today, but if I have to, I will. And the stone I'll use is this kind of generic Amazon type stone, 200 grit. If I want to sharpen on the 400 grit side, put it in this little base thing, and put it in this bamboo thing, and this does not fit very well. So you can see this, some of the corners of this are not fitting very well. These rubber things are slightly too big to fit in there, but I did get it to. I just had to kind of push these corners down. These corners didn't want to go in, but they did now, so I did it. It's in there. So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to try to use it as it comes with this system. Normally I would use a stone holder, but I'm just going to try to use the system as it came. So we're going to soak these and just see what happens. Generally with Waterstones, they say typically to soak them for, some companies will say 5 to 15 minutes. It just kind of depends. Some stones need a little more than that. When I put this in, it's going to start bubbling. The bubbling is going to show that it's taking on water, and you typically just do it till the bubbling stops or slows very much. So let's see what happens when I put this in. So as you can see, it bubbles really aggressively for, I don't know, 10 or 15 seconds. And now it's still bubbling, but much less aggressively. So I'm going to let that soak for about 15 minutes. We'll see where we're at. Just for the sake of comparison, I'm going to put the 3000, 8000 in as well, and let's see what it does. So immediately I notice a couple things with these particular stones. I can see that there's bubbles coming out of this area here in the middle, where that seam is. On all these other Amazon type stones that I've used, and I've used maybe 4 different brands, I don't remember what they are, this never happens. They never come from the seam here. I think that's a good sign. I have higher quality Waterstones that are combo stones, and the ones I have do have the bubbles coming out of the seam here. I think that shows that these are truly 2 different stones, that they have somehow affixed to each other. 2 different grits, 2 different stones that they have actually affixed here. Now, I don't know if I use these over and over. If I use these stones 100 times, this area in the middle might break down, and these might actually come apart. I don't know. I've never had that happen before, but I'm curious to see if that happens with these stones. Again, the other stones I've used like this has never happened. They never bubble from the middle. They just bubble from the outside. So I think this is a good sign, but it makes me wonder about the durability of these stones and if they will fall apart at that seam. We'll see. We're going to give that 10 or 15 minutes. As you can see, this blue stone, which is the coarser one, 400, 1000, has already stopped bubbling aggressively. And now this finer stone has just given off little teeny bubbles. But we'll give it 10 or so minutes to see where we're at. Okay, so this is a King KW65 1000. The 1000 grit side is brown. 6000 grit is tan. This is the stone I'm going to be using today. This is the one I usually use. I've used this many times. This is the one I'm going to be using for the comparison. I always soak this stone so it's already pretty wet. I just took it out and did a quick little dry just to show you what it looks like. But this is the one I'm actually going to be using. I have a brand new one just to show you kind of what you get when you purchase it, so you guys can make a comparison between this particular stone for $27 versus the other big whole Tanahudu set that you get for less money, but they're roughly the same amount. So this, I'm just going to show what you get new. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw this king in here. It's not going to bubble very much because it's already been soaking. So this is already pretty well saturated, so it shouldn't bubble very much. Because of the seam on these actually have a rubber seam. It makes them so they don't sit in the bucket very straight. So sometimes they do lean. So to keep it from leaning against the other stone, I'm just going to kind of tip it that way. Not a big deal. Now, let those continue soaking. Again, it's only been about 5 minutes, and these are releasing considerably less bubbles. Give it 5 or 10 more minutes while I talk about the king stone. So this is the King KW65 model. It's an entry-level model. You can usually find them for $25 to $27, which is why I'm using them to make the comparison today, because the price is very similar. These stones have a long history and are generally well regarded as entry-level budget type stones amongst the Waterstone community. These are kind of the starting point of what you get. This is a basic one. This is kind of what you get. Packaging is a little dirty looking. This one is brand new. You get this base, it's removable. The stone just sits in there. Again, this is the 6,000 side. I'm just showing it, reference has the name on it. And I want to tell you something else. I have purchased 4 of these KW65s. The one I'm going to be using today, one I gifted to a friend. This is the one I intended to give him as a gift. So he opened this, and this is how it came. Cracked and broken. That's not acceptable. So if yours came like this, you should return it or get a refund. I'm keeping this one just for demonstration purposes, and when my other one wears out, I'll probably use this one and just sharpen around this area, and eventually, after quite a few sharpenings, this will just get flattened out and eventually it'll catch up. It's not too egregious, so I'm just going to live with it. Again, I want to use this for demonstration purposes. I kept this deliberately because, one, I think I can work around that, but if you get it like that, you should send it back or get a refund. This is the one I gifted to my friend. He opened it, it was broken. I felt bad, so I pulled out the other one and gave him that. That one also had a tiny chip in it, but it was much smaller. The chip in that one was about big as the fingernail right there in the corner. So he was okay with it, he just used it. But that's 2 out of 4 of these stones that came cracked or broken. I'm just telling you that because it may be an issue. So if you do buy these, check them, open them immediately and check them, and make sure they're not broken. If there's a little chip on a corner, that's probably not too big a deal because you don't really use the corners and you kind of flatten those down. But there should not be a significant chip or crack or break on it. So I'm just telling you that that can be an issue with these stones sometimes. Okay, so this is the stone I'm going to be using today. It is the King KW65. It is considered an entry-level kind of budget stone. This is the KDS model. It is considered a deluxe, more professional stone. These smaller ones run about $27 to $30. I would not pay more than $30 for one. These usually run $37 to $50. I would not pay more than $40 for it. So you can just see it looks a little more fancy. It's much bigger. So it's got about another inch in height. You can see that it has about almost a full inch in length and way more in height. This is what it looks like on top of that, and there it's lined up corner to corner, so there is a little bit here on the sides of overlap and about an inch over there, and that's the comparison for thickness. I've used this stone more I use the 6,000 side quite a bit. So if you compare these, the 6,000 side on the budget one is about the same as the fancy deluxe one, and what you're getting is about good twice as much more of the 1,000 side on the professional one. So if you think it's worth it to get twice as much of the 1,000 side, then there you go. I think both of these stones, the selling point is the 6,000 side. But these are very, very good stones. These are slightly better, but this is cheaper. Just know the one I'm going to be using is the KW65. So today, what we're going to be doing is sharpening these identical Ozark Trail Walmart knives. These are brand new. I just opened them just this morning. I have not done anything with them. This knife here has a wider bevel. It was sharpened at a thinner angle here. So they're not totally comparable. I'll probably sharpen the wider bevel one on the King stone because the King doesn't have as coarse a grit. Its coarsest grit that I'm going to start with is 1,000. So I'll probably give it the head start with that since it doesn't have a 400 grit side. Now these are pretty thick behind the edge. Even though they're small knives, they're thick behind the edge. So if this starts taking a really long time with these stones, I probably will put them on a diamond just to speed it up, but I'll try to just use the stones that come with. So the one with the funky grind is going to be the King stone. The other one is going to be the Amazon Tanahudu stone. I marked the knife that was to be used on the Tanahudu stones by scratching the side of the blade slightly so I could tell the knives apart. Here we go, getting ready to get started. Take my tray, my rubber sleeve, starting on the 400 grit side, so I need the 1,000 grit side in the rubber sleeve. That fit quite nicely that time. This thing is not super tall. Normally I like it a little bit taller, but I'm gonna go with what it gave me and see how it works. This is the one that I scuffed. The scuffed is Tanahudu stone, so. So even just with 3-4 swipes, I can see that it is making slurry, which is the stone breaking apart, which is supposed to happen. The stone is also gouging, so as I'm bringing the tip this way, I'm coming in a little too deeply, and the stone is getting some gouges in it. So I need to be a little more deliberate about my pressure maybe, and my tip. This thing has a very pronounced tip, so I try to be careful about that. Okay, so we are getting some slurry stuck to the side of the knife. That does happen. So just dip it in the water and give it a little rinse. If you're ever doing this with Waterstones and you get slurry stuck to the side of the knife, you do have to be careful about wiping it off, because if you have a fancy knife, it can actually scratch the surface of the knife. Obviously, I don't care about these. The slurry this is making is very sticky and messy. This is one thing I do not like about these Amazon stones. It's making very thick, very messy slurry very quickly. I'm going to turn my stone so it can wear a little evenly. I have some scratches up in here because I gouged it. I'll go to the other side so my bubbles are even. So I'm trying not to go in as deep. I was raising my tip a little too much. That's my error. My bad. Rookie mistake. So now you can see this slurry does get thick and does push over to the other side. I'm sharpening this way and the slurry's pushing over to the other side, but it should be making this thing sharpen quickly, but the stone feels very soft and it's breaking up a lot of slurry actually quite quickly. So what we're getting, I don't like this, really clumpy. There's quite a bit of sticky slurry on here. I don't like that, so we're gonna just give that a little bit of a dunk in there. Most of it came off. I'm not even gonna touch this with my hand. Just gonna put it back. Note when I replace the stone, it sits in the bamboo base unevenly. And continue. I'm gonna keep going on side number 2 for a minute, try to keep my bubbles even for a little bit. So the slurry buildup is off-putting. It's a little too thick and sticky, but it's a coarse stone, so sometimes that happens. Feedback is negligible. It's very poor, but that's common with a coarse stone. So at this point, I kind of just don't like the slurry. So I did notice on this side, going this way, which is this. This is really thick up here. So it's going to take me a little bit. Normally I would do this with a diamond just to make it go really fast. I'll keep trying to use this stone, but I may have to switch to the diamond just to get my burr up here in a reasonable amount of time, but we'll see. I'll give the stone a chance to try to do it, and we'll see where we're at. So you can see the water starting to get some blue silt in there. This is making progress. I want to show you what this looks like. You might be able to see all that cloudy stuff coming off of there. It comes off with just a dunk. I have not wiped it with my hand or tried to clean it or dress it or anything. This thing feels really, really coarse, which is good. So this is kind of where our messiness is at. This is pretty common. This is doing a good job of catching the water. This bamboo base is actually doing a good job of catching the water. There's very little water on my tray. This is making progress on this thing, but I'm going to put it on a diamond just briefly to actually get my burr going, because this has taken a while. That's very common with pocket knives. Are very thick. With Waterstones, I almost always, if I get a new knife like this, especially one that's not profiled very well, it's very common for me to have to do an actual reprofiling and put it on diamonds. Okay, that actually took quite a while. That probably took 15 to 20 minutes actually, at least 10 to 15 of solid just grinding away. This is why I think it's important to have diamonds. Every Waterstone I have, even the coarsest ones, would have taken forever on that, and the diamonds just do it so much better. Just really saves a lot of wear on your actual stones. Saves time, saves wear on your stones, so that's totally reasonable that I would have to do that with this kind of a knife. This is what our water looks like. A lot of that silt has gone down to the bottom. It'll get stirred back around here in a minute, but I've just had the stone sitting in there. Okay, just going to continue on the 400 side. Resume where we left off. But just know that if you did only have these stones and you wanted to do a reprofiling job, it would take a long time and you'd wear your stone out quite a bit. So you can see I got a swipe where I scooped up a lot of my slurry. I hate that. It drives me crazy when it's really thick and sticky like that. It's not my favorite. This knife is pretty crappy. I can feel the blade wobbling a little bit. Doesn't seem like, it's actually pretty solid in there, but there's something about when I'm actually sharpening, the blade is wobbly a little bit. definitely have a burr all the way. So as you can see, this, it just clumps and stays really clumpy. I hate that. So there you go. That's what this stone did. So here's all the thick stuff. There's all the cloudiness coming away. So again, that's just with the dunk and rinse. I haven't even wiped it. So it seems like the slurry just comes right off with the dunk. I am going to redo this water so we can see how much stuff's coming off the other side, because I'm getting ready to switch sides. Okay, we've changed out our waters. Now we have nice, clean, fresh water for the 1000 grit side. Again, this stone has some weird white stuff here. I don't know what that's about. We'll see eventually as I use the stone if that just wears away or if it continues. Don't know what that's about. We're gonna switch sides. So now we're using the 1000 grit side. Has to go like that. Get it all smashed in there. So I have my burr. This should go kind of quickly. Let's see. I immediately can tell this is a finer grit. It feels finer, feels less scratchy. Much more pleasurable feel. Much slower to build slurry, although it is still doing it similarly to how the other one did, just not quite so egregiously. Swipes on each side. See where we're at. Slurry, as you can see, the slurry is still building up. It is still kind of sticky and thick, but it's not nearly as bad as the other one was, and it's not building up quite as quickly. It's not nearly quite as thick. And I'm enjoying this side much, much more than the 400 grit side. This is actually enjoyable, so let me do a quick dunk just to rinse this off. It's not totally necessary, but I just want to see where this is at. So let me do a quick dunk here and we'll see where we're at. Most of that came off. It's just coming right off. Just doing some burr minimization. I'm gonna see how I can get this edge off this 1000. You can see you get slurry on your fingers, and sometimes it goes onto the knife, something to be aware of. I've always had it wash off. Sometimes it can scratch where, if you have a fancy wood-handled kitchen knife or something. If it's really fancy, you probably want to tape it off. This is what my tray looks like. Did a good job catching the water. Again, these Amazon type stones, regardless of the brand, I've never had them do well just directly off the stone without a stropping. It's time to try out this King. I'm just going to use the base that it came with, which again, I usually use a stone holder, but I'll use this base and we'll see where we're at. This is the other knife. Feel is much better, much softer, pleasant, quiet. Still feels like it's working though. Slurry is slower to build up. think fits in the holder pretty well, actually. And slurry is slower to build up, and it's much finer, less sticky and goopy and gunky. Again, sticks to your fingers, but this is wet and soft and smooth. Sticks to the knife, but it's not quite so clumpy. But again, you have to be kind of careful wiping it off your knife. If you have a really, really polished knife, it could scratch it. Here's what it looks like. It is still clumpy and thick. Don't get me wrong. It is still there. It's just not quite so sticky. So the silt just floats right up to the top. It does stick to the stone a little bit, so I'll give it a little bit of a wipe. This stone is much, much smoother. It feels, just to the touch, it feels like it's way, way, way less gritty to my touch. I got to burn on side one really quickly. Getting a burr on side two. So that was much faster than the other stone. I have no way to know if that's due to the actual stone or if it's due to inconsistencies in how the actual knives were sharpened. Much more pleasant sharpening experience. I did have to use the diamond plate for about a minute to get a small area that was being missed at the tip. So then I just put it back on the King 1000 to clean up that diamond scratch pattern. So, got a burr on side 1 and 2 with the King 1000. Happened quite quickly compared to the other knife. Again, I don't know if that's the stone or the knife, but I did use the diamond just to get this tip area. So now I'm just gonna clean this up. Clean up my scratch pattern a little bit. Get that diamond scratch pattern out of there. This stone feels so much better than either the 400 side, which was horrible on the Tanahudu. 400 side was horrible. 1000 side was not too bad. This King side is awesome. It feels amazing. Much more pleasant. Production here. So this thing has a slight recurve in it right here, so that's why you can see it kind of go kind of catches. That is much more detectable on this stone than it was on either of the other stones, which I think means this stone has better feedback, communication with me and what's happening. The edge of the knife is engaging the stone better than the other stones did. They kind of didn't notice it. And again, maybe these knives are not totally identical and the recurve on this one could be more pronounced than on the other knife. I also might have just ground some of that recurve away because I spent 15 minutes on the diamond as opposed to 1 minute on the diamond, which is about what I spent on this King knife. On the diamond was very quick. Yeah, this recurve is really noticeable. It may end up with an edge that's slightly unevenly sharpened because recurves are really hard to do on a flat stone. So we'll see what the finished product looks like, but it may be less than perfect due to the recurve. But the stone is very, very enjoyable. Here's how much load up, slurry load up we have. There is some, but again, it's just finer. It's not quite as sticky and clumpy as the other one. So it mostly comes off. Some of it still sticks to the stone, but it just wipes off with my finger. So it doesn't actually really load into the stone much. Maybe a little bit, but it's hard to see because it's so dark, but not much. So I think we're done. Here is the King knife off the 1000 grit King stone, stropped on a Sharpening 1 micron strop. These belt strop things that come with these Amazon stones don't work. I've never been able to get them to work. I am trying to use this wrapped around this box to try to give it some tension, but the strap type strop still has a lot of flex and give in it. Obviously these strokes are much shorter than the comparable ones off the Sharpening strop, but I'm trying this out to see what it can do. So neither knife is shaving my arm hair, not even close. The Tanahudu off this thing, this is really soft and spongy. I think it rounded my apex over, but we'll see where they're at on this catalog paper. So this is King. Medium, not great. I had a couple trouble spots. This is Tanahudu. Again, both of these are off the 1000 and they're strop. Tanahutu's having a really hard time getting the cut started. Once it gets going, it's okay. So neither knife at this point is exceptional off the 1000 grit stone and their respective strop. Tonahutu was stropped on its strop wrapped around this thing with its crayon compound. King was stropped on a 1 micron Sharpening strop. Neither knife is exceptional, but their sharpness level is close to each other at this point. Neither knife's edge was refined very well because I knew I would be continuing the sharpening to finer grits. Stand by for part 2. Part 2 coming soon. Thanks for watching.